All right, we're gonna try this off the cuff today, guys, and see how this works. So I'm doing a one and go. As you can see, I gotta hide that. There we go. All right, so we are here back again with another behind the beat for August 2025, and today we're going to be going over a track that I actually just put out in at the end of July on July 25th. And this one's called Immunity, and it's the first single from my brand new project. It's coming out this fall called Leaves and Soil. Very excited for this one. I've had this project done for 2 years now, I think, at this point. I think I finished it probably in August, September of 2023. So I've been sitting on this for a while, just ready to put it out. And I wanted to lead off by putting this song Immunity out first because I felt like it still has some summertime energy a little bit with the drums. They're more like dusty lo-fi combined with boom bap. And I felt like this one probably had the most energy because overall, this project is not going to be very like fast paced or, it's not going to give you the summertime feel. It's meant to give you that fall feeling. So that's really the goal for this project overall. So it's a lot more slow beats with BPM and stuff. This one to me felt like the right one to put out first to kind of lead with, kind of tease, like, okay, it's my traditional sound, but it's a bit of a different style based on the concept of the project. So let's get into this one. I really enjoy this record, and it all started out with this sample that I found that incorporates both piano and bass elements. Something about like jazz type infused music really makes me think of the fall and the winter season. So that was really what I set out to do throughout all these songs, is kind of combine more jazz themed elements. And this sample right here is pretty indicative of that. So let's take a listen to it on its own first, and then I'll show you guys the chops that I did for it. So here we go. Has a lot of very lush melodic chords to it, and like I said, that bass line is just incredible. Very silky. I think the original was a bit of a different key, so I think I changed the key a little bit. Other than that, though, that's what the original sounded like. So as I tend to do, take that in Slice X and then make some chops, and then ended up recreating it into this pattern right here that is basically the driving force of the song itself. And that's pretty much it. Just 8 bars, nothing too crazy. And I felt like those chops were very, very well done. Sometimes, I'll go back like a track I made a couple years ago, and I'll listen to what I did, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know about that decision, or I kind of cringe a little bit at whatever I'm doing or whatever I did, I guess. But I think this one actually sounds pretty good on its own. Sometimes I'm able to mask it with the other elements itself, but I was glad that this one still kind of holds up. So next is the drums, which, like I mentioned, this track has some boom bap elements, some dusty old school elements, and these drums fit very well, I thought, with the piano and the bass. So let's hear those on their own. I love the real percussion sounds in there. the little break at the end and the open hi-hat throughout that break as well is a big thing that I enjoy. So that was just a no-brainer. I love old school hip hop that can combine those elements together. Um, and that was pretty much, a simple decision right there. So the last real element of this track are the pads, which come in kind of on the it's mostly on the chorus, but you could technically count it as a pre-chorus as well. But these pads, I believe, are another sample that I just flipped. Yeah, I ended up time stretching it a little bit, and I reversed this as well from what it was originally, just to get something that would, complement the keys and the bass primarily. So let's hear that on its own. And you can probably hear that definitely has some vocal elements to it, some chorus and choir elements in there. And you could take that and make a totally different song out of that if you really wanted to. You don't really have to stick to one thing with that pad specifically. And it's something, like I said, you might not even notice within the context. I always talk about that on these behind the beat videos, just adding things that you feel complement it, but don't overtake the main purpose of the song. So that's pretty much it. The only other thing is this effect, which I titled Pocket Effects, which probably came from Splice. Um, this is the original one right here. It plays very well with the pads. It's got some vocal elements to it. So I ended up chopping that first part off and just keeping the second half and time stretching it to fit the 90 BPM. This is what I got. And just added a good amount of reverb to that. Let me check this reverb real quick. Yeah, obviously a lot of saturation on the reverb. Wanted it to stand out. Wanted you to be able to hear it. And just added that in every 8 bars. So nothing super crazy going on here. But let's hear this all together. If I can get to it. This beat is about as routine as you can get. Um, but again, I think that it's really setting the tone for what this project really is, in my opinion. It's very simplified. It's very just mellow. It's not like all over the place. So I thought it was great to lead off with this one. I think this is a nice track, and like I said, it could fit into a couple different maybe playlists out there, like fall theme playlists, but also maybe some chilled hip hop playlists. But yeah, that is Immunity. Like I said, it's out now, all platforms. First single from Leaves and Soil, which is coming in a few months. We still got a couple more singles to drop, which will probably be the next ones that I talk about on these videos over the next couple months. So it's going to be another, 5 or 6 months of me pushing this project. Obviously, When Loves the Motive came out a few months ago, and doing 2 albums in a year is definitely going to be interesting. I've had both these projects done for a while. When Loves the Motive, I enjoyed pushing that, but now it's time to focus on this one. And I hope you guys enjoy the song. Check it out. Link in the bio or in the description. I always say bio. Link in the description of the video to stream the song, and stay tuned for more details on the project coming soon. But thank you guys for watching. Again, these might be the most boring behind the beat videos you've ever seen, but I still like to do them. I still like to show, what I do, and I guess just show that you don't have to do a lot to get a pretty good song at the end of the day. You can keep it simple. And that's kind of what I do. But thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll see you next month for another Behind the Beat video. Till then, take care, guys.